Coogs House. The Houston Cougars knock off the Rice Owls 75-39 to avenge that fateful football loss a couple months back. And I'm here to tell you, it wasn't even that close.
You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Coogs, daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth, here to break down all things Cougs. If you're a fan or just a hater who can't stop by, you're invited to. Just be sure to subscribe down below. That way, that's the latest on Cougs and Unity feed each and every day. We appreciate you making Locked On Coogs your first listen of the day. And welcome back to the YouTube channel. That's where you found us. It is so good to see you again. Hit subscribe. Help us get to the next 250 mark. That is 2,000. We're doing a giveaway every 250, so hit subscribe. Help us get to the next one at 2,000. Like, comment the video to let us know you are in the contest. If you've listened to this whole thing, you feel like Rice is fairly successfully broken down, and you don't know what to say, tell us if you like white rice, brown rice, yellow rice, Spanish rice, whatever kind of rice you like to eat. Now, today's episode's got a couple of different things we're going to look at here. So let's go ahead and jump on into the breakdown. Let's talk a little bit about how it's going to go. Let's talk first about what happened in the game. The second segment, I'll talk about the big men and their active movements. And the last segment, I want to talk some about wing players and aggression coming in off the wings. Now, Houston does win 75-39 officially. I think the Jumbotrons and the TV all said 76-38 at the buzzer. That's been corrected at some point. It doesn't matter. Giant win. Per Sports Reference, I saw this number floating around different. Sports Reference has this as the second lowest point total that Houston's ever held Rice to. The previous they have was 36 in 1986-87. 39 points is also, for what it's worth, less points than the Rice football team scored against the Houston Cougars just a couple months back. Yeah, that's the thing that happened. But incredible defensive effort. Rice made 13 baskets, 13 made field goals. Houston had 13 steals. Rice ended up with 21 turnovers. Houston had 35 missed shots and 17 offensive rebounds. That's almost exactly half of their missed shots. Now, I was interesting in the post-game, Kelvin Sampson said, and I'm quoting him here, it's not easy being a good defensive team. It's not, not all defensive teams are built equal. They're all different. But the first thing I tell our kids, I tell them, you don't have to be a great defensive player. We'll protect you. You got to be in the right place. You have to be able to move on the flight of the ball or on the dribble. The ball is constantly moving in the court. So being in the right place is fluid. And I thought on Wednesday night, Houston just flat looked like a team playing at a different speed. It looked like they were moving in fast forward while Rice was stuck in slow motion. It looked like at any moment, Houston could hit the turbo button and be at the ball quicker than Rice could. And that's credit to the scheme, credit to the coaching, credit to the strength and conditioning, credit to all the things. But I think that's exactly what Sampson's talking about here, is that they're moving while player A is passing the ball to player B as the ball is releasing from the fingertips, and they're meeting the ball at its next spot. They're moving as soon as the ball leaves the guy's hand to dribble, and they're beating him to the spot he's trying to head to. They're doing all these things on a string. For reference as to how this game went, though, Mekhi Mason, star player for Rice thus far, them hit a three at the 15-12 mark in the first half to go up 9-8. Houston was down for the next couple minutes until L.J. Cryer hit a three at the 13-13 mark. So 13 minutes and 13 seconds left in the first half. Houston never looked back. They went on a 26-9 run to end the first half. And if you want to continue that run out, they outscored Rice 67-30 after those first 7 minutes. So you could dog them for the slow start. You can't say they didn't turn it on. They played tougher. They played more physical. They played faster. Breaking down into what sets went right and what sets went wrong, we'll talk a little bit about that when we get to each individual player. As far as impressive statistics. Travis Eby, their high point man on the season, point guard, 17 points per second highest point man, I should say, 17 points per game, 2.3 assists per game. Houston held him to 3 points, 2 assists, and 2 turnovers. So kept him below his averages and everything, and 14 points below his points per game average. Now, I look at a number of different individual efforts and things like that, and it doesn't feel right to single out any one of them. It was a total team domination of the Rice Owls from start really to finish. And like I said, there was that hot second where Makai Mason makes a 3 at the 15-minute mark, but it was 8-2 before that earlier, right? But the story of the night actually might have been the guy sitting in the 20th row talking to a bunch of high school and college football players, and that was new football coach Willie Fritz. Willie Fritz wisely was very present and active at the basketball game, spoke to the crowd at halftime, spoke to some media members in the tunnels after that, and for what it's worth, he continued to use this basketball team as the intro to the fan base. He said in his opening press conference that he wanted his football team to be as tough and play as hard as Kelvin Sampson's basketball team, praised Sampson's efforts. He uses the basketball team as an example of excellence in athletics when talking to ESPN at halftime of the basketball game, and talked about the atmosphere that they have, the atmosphere that they've built with their success shows that Houston can be that kind of an environment, right? Now, I think it's interesting, and before I get into individual performances as a team, that the basketball team has become that kind of a calling card here, right? Because Willie Fritz knows exactly what he's doing. Willie Fritz is using the momentum of the basketball season, the basketball program. He's using the buzzwords, traits, identifiers that you could use about a hard-nosed Sampson team and a football team, and using that as a way to get people that are excited about the basketball program, like you and I, to have some sort of a vision as to what he wants to get out of his football team. Because truthfully, the word toughness or the word physicality, those are so dramatically different across sports. But what we both really hear and feel when he says those kinds of things is success. We feel and hear him reference the basketball team, and we automatically go to they're winning 30-plus games a year. They've built that program up in the last 9 years to win 30-plus games per year. We identify what he's saying and connect it somewhat subconsciously to, he's looking to make this thing successful. He's not just saying that because that'd be cliche and we're going to win some games. Like we heard that one before. But he's connecting it with something that makes you feel that without having to be that blunt or, frankly, that cliche with it. It really feels more authentic. Now, his teams do play tough. I'm excited about it. And this basketball team, played really, really tough as well. I want to talk some about the big men in the second segment. But first, big men led to a big win. And if you are looking for a big win this week, head over to FanDuel because right now the weather's getting a little colder. And as the weather gets colder, NFL offers stay hot at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. $150 if the team you put $5 on wins. If you're thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. They have super easy to use app. They have spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. If you go to FanDuel right now, they have our Houston Texans as a 3.5-point road favorite against the New York Jets. Now, I will say that money line that we're talking about is at minus 190 at this point as the time of this recording for the Houston Texans. There's some movement in that this week. So make sure you go jump on it, put $5 on it. The Houston Texans wins. You can get $150 back in bonus bets. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right. I said I'm talking about the big men in this matchup, and that kind of gets me into more of the schematics and those kinds of things of how this game operated. I have to say, Houston started this game in a way I did not think I'd see them start a game this year, and that was by intentionally going to Javier Francis on the block to get the game started. And it worked, to be fair. Like I'm not saying I didn't think it wouldn't work. I just didn't think they'd ever go there because so many options, frankly. Cryer, Shead, whichever one they start, Sharp or Dunn, and then obviously Juwan Roberts was the guy a year ago. Again, a year ago when Juwan was playing the 5, they would typically find Juwan for one of his classic left-handed, not quite a hook shot, not quite a flip, right? Where he goes, puts his right shoulder in the defense and pops it up and kind of get him active, get him engaged. And we saw it work so well that we would eventually see it this year when Juwan moves to the power forward spot too, right? And so you're constantly finding him, those kind of things to start the game, get him on the right footing. Against Rice, Houston went to Javier Francis, and frankly, he averaged 5 points a game coming in. He had 10 points in just 19 minutes on the night. So it clearly translated across the entirety of his play. But what it also really did was got Max Fielder, their center, the 6'11 center from Rice, in foul trouble. Now, Fielder, if you remember from my pregame breakdown, was a guy I had, frankly, like good things to say about. He was a facilitator. He was a guy that he's a great passer. He did it mostly from the high post, sometimes from around the foul line. Really, really impressive basketball player. And I'm trying to find the minute mark here. Yes, his third foul, because they were playing through Javier, which meant they were going to the block, to the post, putting stress and pressure on Fielder. His third foul came with 6 minutes and 42 seconds in the first half. He then obviously went and took a seat for a second, and Houston was up 24-13 at that point, within the half, up 34-18. Again, that's a 10-5 run in the 6 minutes and 40 seconds that Fielder was on the bench to end the half. Now, obviously, the lead expands and continue to expand in the second half, but that's all because they went at him. And I actually think this was somewhat intentionally schematic, not just to get JVR going, but it did, but to go right at their best player, right? Going at Fielder put him in a couple different awkward spots, make him make some decisions, and he made the wrong ones and ultimately got in foul trouble. Now, Houston was going to beat Rice no matter what scheme Rice threw out there and no matter what scheme Kelvin threw out there. They're just the better basketball team. But in looking at things they can continue to get better at, there will be a lot of teams this season. Kansas. Texas has a good big man. Teams that have your 7-footers that lead them in scoring. Hunter Dickinson in Kansas is the one that comes to mind all the time, so I reference him a lot. Going at that guy, making him value, changes an entire game, changes an entire night. And this entire sport, as much fun as it is decided by a bunch of one-game samples. You can go at Hunter Dickinson and get him in some foul trouble in the Big 12 Conference Tournament. It's a one game. You just got to beat them once, right? Now, I think Houston can beat Kansas in a number of different ways. We'll preview that game when we get there. But as far as beating Hunter Dickinson one-on-one goes, get him foul trouble that one night, he's out. He's done, right? Same kind of thing would pop up in the national level, in the March Madness tournament, and so on. We saw, frankly, how Houston's poor shooting kind of got them in the Sweet 16 in a one-game sample last year, right? Going at a big guy and getting foul trouble like that's an interesting strategy. It also, frankly, was refreshing to see Javier score the basketball. He's had a rocky road. Not rocky, that's not fair to say. He's had a difficult path at Houston because he came in at a time when there were a bunch of really talented big men on an Elite 8 basketball team. And so we didn't get to play much. As Kelvin Sampson will tell you and said in the postgame, he tells you all the time, but he's reiterated in the postgame that, his freshman year, he really never played. And his sophomore year, Houston brought in a lottery pick at power forward and moved Juwan to the center. And he didn't really get to play much then either because they had Reggie Chaney as their sixth man of the year in the conference, right? And so suddenly it's like, okay, well, he's not going to play much then. And so where's he going to find minutes? This is the most minutes he's played by a long shot in any year he's been at Houston thus far. And he's finding his path, that 5 points a game becoming 10. I hope it's not an accident. I hope we see more of the 8 to 12 point range for him over the course of these last few non-conference games to kind of get him ready for a daunting task in the Big 12. Now, he's not the only big man that played well. Jawan Roberts, the guy we've talked about a couple different times now, is playing the Power 4 this year, just had 4 points, had a fairly calm night for himself. And while he had a calm night and just had the 4 points, he played 20 minutes as a blowout game. He probably had the best individual one-on-one highlight of the night in a empty side pick and roll here with Jamal Shead. Jamal Shead attacked upwards on behind 3-point line, more towards the middle of the floor from the corner. Then you had Jawan Roberts pick and then roll to the baseline. Jamal Shead finds him the baseline. He took a couple dribbles and then did this up and under, like NBA guard looking finesse, graceful kind of twisting and contorting of his body to avoid an offensive foul, to avoid a deflection or a block, and make an up and under layup. It really was a highlight of the night as far as like single plays are concerned. The only other thing I'd say was close was Ryan Elvin's lone bucket, which was not quite a 3, so I guess I was wrong on that yesterday. But the step back, off the dribble 3, we haven't seen Ryan Elvin do a whole lot with the dribble. It's impressive to say the least. But I really like that move from Jawan, and frankly, watching Jawan's move made me think maybe he is, I thought he was really well fit for the center position last year. I talked to nauseam in the offseason about can he play the power forward? I think it's fairly safe to say he can. And Ainsworth was wrong. Sampson was right. That's going to happen a lot, right? Other bigs that played well. JoJo Tugler's energy was super visible. 4 steals on a block in just 13 minutes. That's 5 what an analytics person would call stocks in just 13 minutes. That's kind of unheard of. He made all 3 of his shots. They're all by the rim, right? Energy palpable. His energy is always a visible thing to see when he steps on the floor. And for what it's worth, had he not been in his, foul trouble, at one point he had 3 fouls. I think that was mostly in the first half. It might have been 2 in the first, 1 in the early third, or 1 in the early second. Third of his fouls in the early second. He probably plays a little bit more because it is a blowout. Houston's got a bunch of other forwards to play. And so I get why he got what he got. But I do think JoJo Tugler's energy was visible again. It's pretty much every of the 9 games they played this season where Tugler steps on the floor and you see just bodies flying, his hair flying around as he's flying through the air. Just speed, length, all those kinds of things. I guess Said Lot is the other big man that did get in the game some. Said Lot here on the official scorecard played 5 whole minutes. He had 1 layup. He should have had the layup, but he got stripped as the ball goes up, and then he missed a dunk off the rim. And we need to get Said Lot in the scorebook in these kind of games, and he had his chances. It just didn't quite happen. Now, if you feel like given chances, you can make it happen, then you need to go check out our buddies at Prize Picks, because Prize Picks is as much fun as you can have winning money by putting your sports knowledge to the test. They give you all kinds of stats and things like this, and you pick more than or less than on various categories for guys. So, for example, at this cool sports equinox where football and basketball happen at the same time, you can go in and check out different parlays and look at Travis Kelce and LeBron James over under receptions, made threes. Let's set the line at 10.5. Right. And so do they get more than that or less than that? And so when Travis Kelce gets 7 catches and LeBron James hits his 4-3, you got it done. Prize Picks also offers an injury reboot policy. So if you have a guy who gets hurt in the first half and does not come back in the second half, you don't lose any cash. It's a really, really cool injury insurance, and the only daily fantasy sports app offering that kind of injury insurance. So make sure you go check them out at prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use code lockedoncollege for the first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, and use code lockedoncollege for your first deposit match up to $100. All right. Last but not least, I need to show Terrance Arceneaux some love, because you guys know I love Terrance Arceneaux, but I was particularly hard on him because I did not think he played very well. I don't think he would say he played very well against Xavier. And I have high expectations for Terrance. I think Terrance can be a very talented pro basketball player. And I'm excited to see the kind of like growth development he has in his time here at Houston. And I saw flashes of it last year. And I really am excited for his sophomore campaign. And he's been here a year and all those kind of things. And we'll get to a funny Kelvin Sampson comment after this, talking about his game on Wednesday night. But I was really on him in that Xavier game. No rebounds, kind of low energy, didn't look like himself, right? He came out against Rice and was very much himself. Now, he was just 3 of 9 shooting, and I think that's probably the one criticism you could say, but they were all really, really good looks. And as Kelvin Sampson said after the game, he was 3 of 9 tonight, could have easily been 7 of 9, and trust me, that's coming. If he continues to play like this, he will have that 7 of 9, 2 of them are 3 to get a couple free throws. That 20-point kind of night could absolutely have fit in tonight. His shot just fallen. He had 9 rebounds to go with those 6 points, a bunch of deflections, and like getting in the passing lanes, and then one monster chase down block on a breakaway. The game was never in doubt. I don't mean to say like put the game away, but seemed to kind of crush any spirit Rice had left at that point. Great bounce back game for him to follow that disappointing Xavier game. They get Jackson State this weekend, and then obviously Aggies in a week. For a kid from the area, because Terrance is from Beaumont, that's an important one to him as well. Now, he spoke afterwards about his growth in practice and how like he's practicing better than he did as a freshman, and so is expecting to play better than as a freshman and so on. But I thought after using a cross-country metaphor in which he said that like Terrance Arceneaux would just run and didn't necessarily know his and he made comment about like waffle shoes or something. Kelvin Sampson would go on to say about Terrance that he's gaining weight this year after losing weight last year because he doesn't have to do any of the penalty runs because he knows what he's doing. Meaning that like when you mess up a drill, hey, go hit the line, go run, give me 5 up and backs or whatever, those kind of things. He doesn't have to do that this year because he's not making the same mistakes. He's actually gaining a little weight this year. And, I don't guess I noticed till Kelvin Sampson said that, but he does look stouter. He listed as closer to 200 pounds now, as a year ago was closer to 170. So maybe there's something to that. But Terrance played really, really well. And after dogging him so much of the Xavier game, I needed to give him his props back. I also want to point out that Damian Dunn, I was surprised to see he only had 10 points. I felt like he scored every time he wanted to, which probably just means I remember all 5 of his baskets because it was the fun kind of basketball to watch. Dunn did a great job of getting to that mid post, that like 10-foot area, what I'm calling the mid post, that like second tick mark on the foul line area. And as he's doing that, he like puts his back to the basket, physical with the guy, and then will like make some sort of a finesse move, not quite a dream shake, but I'm calling it a Carmelo Anthony type move, and a little shoulder shake with it or whatever, and then he jumps up for a jump shot, and he would just kind of hang there, like knees bent, hang in the air, while the defense would make a mistake, not fly, wrong direction, and then nice kiss it off the back of the rim through the net. Those kind of moments were really, really cool to watch, and frankly, like, all right, I grew up watching like. I got into basketball watching, I don't want to say it's the N1 mixtape kind of stuff only, but one-on-one basketball was a big thing to watch in the late 90s and early 2000s. Getting to watch a guy like Damian Dunn with a little bit more old school to his game, doing that kind of stuff, tugs right at the heartstrings, right? Like that's exactly the kind of stuff. And it's why we love Carmelo Anthony. And watch Carmelo Anthony as a kid is a ton of fun as well. We won't talk about his days as a Houston Rocket, but it's the same kind of game and it's fun for the same kinds of ways. The other wing that came in and did well, or that did well, I should say, he didn't come in. He came off the bench later and hit his first 3 after that. Manuel Sharp just continues to be an assassin from beat. 4 of 8 from 3. Meant he had 4 of 8 on the game, 2 of 6 from 3. He had 12 points. Really, really continues to impress on the defensive end this year. Manuel does. Obviously, I keep talking about it, and so if Manuel this ever gets back to you, I don't mean to keep talking about it, but I think it bears mentioning that you're playing this well just 18 months post bad leg breaking injury, right? That's kudos to the rehab, the recovery, and all that, but it also helps explain like the dramatic growth we're seeing and how well he's moving this year versus last year, because he's going from like a year post-injury to like 2 years post-injury, right? And so that's important to keep in mind, and that's why he's looking so great this year, I would say, honestly. Yes, Jamal Shead played well, and yes, LJ Cryer played well, but that was somewhat predictable. They're going to play well against most teams we play. They're very talented basketball players. It was cool to see the full team effort from all these different guys, Javier, all the way to, frankly, Ryan Elvin coming off the bench and hitting a off the dribble step back almost three with a long two if it was on the line. Really, really fun thing to watch. Fun game to watch. It's always good to beat those Rice Owls. Now, Jackson State is this weekend. We got a week until we play the Aggies. Lots of fun things happening on Houston's campus, including things like Willie Fritz, transfer portal, gasp, all kinds of things happening in the third ward with the Houston Cougars. So for the latest each and every day, I ask that you subscribe because we would love to talk to you about it again tomorrow. If you're looking for a second listen of the day, I'm going to recommend Locked On College Basketball, because Andy and Isaac talk all things college hoops each and every day. If you made this far in the episode, you must like talking about college basketball as well. They got a really fun show, so go check them out. Thank you all again so much. Locked On Coogs is a primary Locked On podcast network. That means your team, our Coogs, every day. Go Coogs.